If there's one thing that Christians are good at, it's setting a vibe.
It's setting a vibe.
For sure.
Oh.
90% of the thing is the vibe.
The smoke machines?
Oh my God.
Lasers?
That's why we're always crying.
That's why we're always crying.
See, I actually think you could open with that verse.
I like that.
I feel like that's
I like that a lot. I love that.
I love that.
You know why I love that? Because I write, my third verses are always, I think, first verses.
Yeah.
I think the third verse is always like I'm not anxious anymore about getting it right.
Yeah.
And so like it just comes across a little more provocative.
Somewhere between the red and blue line. Oh, Riley is a simple kind of guy. I don't know, whatever. Riley sat next to me on the bench on Wednesday shitting. Nicotine pouch and a fifth of JD whiskey. I know he'll pass the puck whether we're losing or we're winning. He can take a punch till you catch him toothless grinning.
This is welcome to Holyish. This is our very first episode.
Yes.
And I was really trying to figure out how to introduce you, because the introduction could go a number of ways. I could say that we were in high school bands together, which would be true. I could also say I married your sister and you're my brother-in-law. That's also true.
Also true.
I could also say that we have been songwriting partners for my entire adult life.
Also true.
Also would be true.
Also would be true.
The reason I want you here today and to join in the conversation that I've been having, is because in those early days of creativity and songwriting and learning how to put together a set list and perform that in front of people, like, you kind of cut your teeth on that in the world of CCM.
Church, yeah.
Yeah, gospel music, and to the tune of getting to go on tour with a band that was hot at the time and getting to play in churches all across North America. I mean, I've always been impressed with you as a musician and a performer, but even more so as a songwriter. And we're going to get into all of that, but I want to start off just by asking you what that transition was like once you realized, I don't actually want to be a part of this world anymore.
Right. No, I think it's fair. You know this because we grew up doing music in a similar culture, right? I think what like Christian faith and church does really well is it gives a lot of opportunity for you to be on stage. And so if you enjoy music and you enjoy writing and you enjoy performing, there's so many opportunities. Literally, I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's like if you're playing in church band on Sunday morning, it's like you're rehearsing at least once through the week. So you have an opportunity to be on stage, to be playing with others. You learn what it's like to play with people, which is such a core skill in actually developing yourself as a musician.
Yeah.
And so it's like, a lot of the skills that I learned early on in church culture was like, what slice of the pie do I take up on stage, and how do I remain in that by making mistakes? I learned how to, take my corner of the stage and learn how to perform.
Yeah.
So we run into some of our first problems about what started to make me feel like this was not something that I loved.
Right.
Which was that key element of performance. And I think, although I've had amazing opportunities and I think met incredible people along the journey of like playing music in church scenarios, there was a part that I couldn't reckon with myself, which felt like performative.
Right.
And the truth is that there's a huge part of music for me that I enjoy, which is being on stage and performing and doing that whole thing. And it did get to a point within, I think, church culture that I felt as though, I wasn't necessarily doing it for the right reasons anymore. And maybe there was parts of me that believed a lot of the people that I respected weren't doing it for the right reason anymore. And ultimately, I was thinking about this. I think there's a huge element of this that includes burnout. There was an element of like physical burnout, but I think that there was more than that. Like I think what contributed to that was just sort of like a prolonged need to create a spiritual environment for people that I didn't feel was my responsibility anymore to do. And really, that was not me judging others who do that. It was just what I felt were my skills. In the sense that, what I really wanted to do was write honest songs. And I just felt in the framework of writing songs for congregations and churches, I couldn't get as honest. I couldn't be myself. I couldn't say the things I was really wanting to say. And it took me a very long time for somebody to come up to me and just tell me, hey, you don't actually have to. Yeah. I think it was somewhere later in my 20s where somebody's like, hey, you don't have to. Yeah. And that was just such a moment of just like, oh, right. I just needed one person to actually tell me that I could go play in a corner bar and sing but whatever the fuck I wanted to sing about. And then when I started to do that, I found this new spirituality and I found this new spirit, and it was human and it was beautiful and it was dirty and it was so much more along the lines of what I related to. And in those spaces of just kind of like a little bit whitewashed corporate Christian environments, I wasn't able to necessarily get the expression that I needed, which at my heart, I'm a writer. At my heart, I'm not a performer anyways. And so it's like these sort of big events that you get to play and the amount of people at them and everything wasn't ever very important to me. It was more like, what am I saying? And why does it matter? And those questions just weren't asked a lot in my experience in that world.
Can you remember a time, maybe even like on stage, like when did you start to feel, is there a moment you can point to where you started to feel that disconnect of like you started out filling in on bass for a band, but eventually moved to like actually getting to play your own songs and bring those? Like,
totally.
Did you feel that tension of like, oh, the truth that I'm trying to convey in my art isn't actually being received in the way I hoped it would, or I'm feeling that tension of mismatching of what their expectations were and what you're bringing? Like,
I don't think it was ever a moment where I was like, I'm not able to be myself. To give great credit to the people who gave me the opportunity to be on stage. They allowed me to write in the way and perform in the way that I felt like I wanted to. I did some weird stuff. Like if you were to go see a little Christian
what's
worship,
the weirdest thing you did?
like playing an acoustic guitar.
What can people Google right now?
Yeah, no. Don't go that far back because it's really rough shit. But like I was experimenting with like playing with like a delay pedal on my acoustic guitar, and I was wearing like a fedora for a little while, and it was a lot. It was a lot. I think to your question, it's like what was the moment? I felt as though I had this great opportunity in the wrong place. That I had like nobody was rotten to me. Like I had such great people in that world, and I can't point to a scenario where I'm like, there's a handful, like any business, like church is a business, right? There's so much of it that requires it to operate like a business operates, and so some of that was yucky for me, but I wasn't necessarily too young to realize that was a reality of the world. But I think I found myself with on this stage, this sort of proverbial stage that didn't feel like the right stage, and I was trying to create and to push and to communicate. And the space that I was doing that in was incorrect. Like it was very obviously don't do that here. Yeah. Go find somewhere else. But growing up in this and only knowing it, I didn't know where to go. Right. So I think that really contributed to that burnout piece where I just kept trying. Again and again and again, that definition of insanity, right? Like, and over again, smacked my head against the wall, and just like people were lovely. They came up, they hey, thanks. Like again, like you go to see like a Christian, like cool big worship rock show, and I would come out singing, like very non-conformative, like Christian songs, like just kind of like weird stuff.
Little bit of grit, a little bit of edge.
You couldn't sing along with it. It wasn't, it was very experimental.
Yeah,
for its thing, and not in a way that was like gonna make like revolutionize the industry either. So I just kept bumping up against this thing where everyone's like, "Hey, you're great," and
we just don't know what to do with you.
We don't know what to do with you
because you never even when you wanted to, like you were never like trying to write the next cornerstone. Like you weren't like, let me write a corporate worship song. You were just like
never interested.
I mean, to your credit, like you've always had this like relationship with honesty that even in those rooms, maybe you were still able to feel like you were true to yourself. But
I was a folk singer songwriter.
Yeah,
growing up in Hamilton, signing on with Scott Orr and Other Songs Music. There was nothing affiliated with the church with that record label. That was just like a folk music record label, and we were playing house shows, and that was something I loved. And then I got a call from like a really awesome guy to be like, hey, your last record was cool. Come out on tour. And dropped out of school and just was so excited of the idea. But I think I entered the wrong lane. That wasn't necessarily where I belonged. And then of course, portions of that. I think that the difficulty of that experience for me was that I believed that was the only place that I should be, and
Yeah.
that if I left it, I was no longer using the things that I was good at to glorify God, or to serve a higher purpose, or to, and then the opposite of that was walking away from it, and that was terrifying. And so knowing I didn't belong in a space, but sort of just like kind of pushing through and banging my head against the wall to try to make it work just drove me to insanity. And I really just needed time away from it, and I left it and took some time away from music for some time, until again somebody was like, you can just be who you want to be. And I was like, oh shit. And then I just started writing songs that were about how I felt that day.
What songs feel representative of that shift to you
Today?
Yeah. No. Like when you think of that time in your life, like I know your catalog.
Oh yeah.
I actually want to know, like, tell me about a song
Right.
that represented like a shift in your thinking, represented by a piece of art you created.
Well, I remember it's the song Trouble.
Yes.
So go away, all ye troubles. My heart is in pain. Go away, all ye troubles. So I say it in His name.
Trouble is a song that it's like, I wanted that song, when I sang that song, like, go away, even if the language that I used in it, which was just like, go away all ye trouble, Y-E, like this old English weird sort of like
holier.
King James
Right.
type.
It's the only real translation.
little-
I don't see the problem. Moving on.
I would sing the song where it's like, go away all you trouble, sort of like I say it in His name.
Right. Yeah.
Was how I ended that chorus. And I remember every time I ended that chorus, whether I fundamentally believed that, the God could take my trouble away, I didn't want to sing about that.
Right.
I didn't want to sing about taking away my trouble. I just wanted to sing about being in trouble because I felt troubled.
Yeah, I say it in Christ's name. Awake, human hearts, our hunger's gotta take us further. Awake, human hearts, our hunger's gotta take us further. Awake, human hearts, our hunger's gotta take us further. Only you can take us further. So go away, holy trouble. Oh, my heart is in pain. Go away, holy trouble. I say it in His name. Go away, holy trouble. My heart is in pain. Go away, holy trouble. I say it in His name. Oh, I say it in Christ's name. Oh.
Yeah.
And so then this framework of Christianity, or so this blanket of it and this influence of it on my life at the time, felt like I had to
Say it in His name.
neatly
Yeah.
tie it up.
Yeah.
And then every time I sang that song in sort of a church setting and on these tours and everything else, I was just sort of like, but I just want to talk about the fact that I feel fucked up and crazy, and I'm a young, hormonal 20-year-old who is just like not feeling like he belongs.
Yeah.
And that's the song I wanted to write. And I wish, of course, that, at an earlier age, somebody would have been like, you can just write that song if you'd like.
Yeah.
Just write that song and go and sing it in front of whoever will listen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be in this space and for this reason and with these people.
That's great. The funny thing about that song is, like, as soon as you said it, like, both Colin and I were like,
It was
So
it was a
good.
banger.
It was
Back in the
it was
day
a
banger.
banger.
Back in the day banger.
Playing that
it's like
live-
you two and 6 other people would agree, but yeah.
no, it's way more. It's more than that.
Thank you for listening. My name's Eric Brandon.
Simple kind of easy kind of life. I searched the highest mountains, gone and
I think you could use some pretty specific imagery there of, like, I've been on the road. Like,
Right.
you've literally traveled the country
Yeah.
playing music to try and find what this dude seems to have on Wednesday nights.
100%. I spent 20 years trying to find.
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
a
yeah.
gun that what's a gun that I've spent 20 years trying to find?
Like I said, I've gotten to ride your coattails as we have traveled the country together, made so many records, played so many shows to empty rooms, but also like really full rooms. And yeah, I think like the reason I was like really wanting to talk to you in this way was actually mostly to do with your relationship to songwriting. Particularly because for me personally, songwriting has kind of been this like, it's almost been utilitarian. Like usually I have an idea that I want to communicate and I choose music and songwriting to do that. And it becomes like this vessel. But like, I remember observing even like as you were getting into writing music and realizing like how like I used the word intuitive before, but it was the way that you expressed yourself. You've always like embodied your songs. If I was to ask you a specific question, it would be, what did songwriting give you as a teenager? And then as a follow-up, like how did that evolve over time?
Music became a physical expression. And it was a place that I was able to get out of my mind and into my body in. So the way I approach it is often physical. It's descriptive in its language. More specifically, it's rhythmic in how I play the guitar. Like I'm not, the world's best classical guitar player. I don't know much about theory, but like early on playing drums and playing the piano, playing these sort of physical instruments, the guitar was just sort of something I felt I had to learn in order to pursue that vessel. So what did it give me? I think it enabled me to find a place where I could feel grounded. And there's lots more to that, I think, in terms of what that did for me as a teenager. But I think it's still true in my life. I feel better when I come from my mind and into my body. And so then I can think clearer, get my thoughts out, talk out loud, hear myself speak, which clearly I love to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all do to an extent. That's okay. No, but there is this. I've heard you talk about it before as like your songs almost become like a dialogue partner for you.
Yeah.
Like, say more about that.
Oh, for sure. Like, I think I've always been an external thinker. So it takes me a long time to get to my point because I'm thinking out loud and I'm thinking externally. And so music has actually become a bit of a partner, a bit of a buddy. Songwriting has actually sort of morphed into this therapist for me before I sort of knew what that world was and that before I had access to that world.
Yeah.
All I had was, my friends, you included. How many nights did we sit out for, 6 hours outside of a bar, or even earlier than that at a coffee shop, and just talk. And so very naturally, when I didn't have those people, I needed something to do in my own time, and that was really, really helpful for me. So yeah, it's a place that I go to still to this day to hear myself think.
Right. It's like, would it be fair to say like, when you're like, I don't actually know how I feel about this, I should write a song about it.
For sure.
So that I can figure that out.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. If I feel excited about somebody I've just met, or I feel inspired by a movie I've watched, or if I feel very sad, or if I feel very tired, like music is always a place that I can go where, to some degree of consistency, be able to turn to and feel better.
Yeah.
And that is why I have always pursued it, and I have, pursued it even into a riper age.
Right.
I'll say.
Can we use
riper age?
Can we use a different
Should we
word?
try again? I think it's why I've continued to pursue music into the a different cohort in life, and like as I've grown and aged, I've continued to go back to it because it fulfills the same need for me. I think something like standing in front of people and playing music or sharing my music, there's elements, there's recording your music, there's releasing your music, there's getting on socials, there's all kinds of dynamics behind what people do with their songs that they write. And those in some levels are beneficial to me, and I enjoy those processes, but at the root of it, I'm still just a 15-year-old sitting in my bedroom when my parents have gone to sleep, singing very quietly so that I could help process the emotions from that day. It's still true to who I am today.
I gotta think out loud, talk it out till I find out what I really need. 'Cause I think I need my good friends in a stiff drink. I think I need a mirror to bend so I feel better.
For those of us who grew up as musicians in a church too, there's like this immense pressure you feel as a songwriter to write.
Give it all.
Yeah.
Give it all away for free.
Well, yeah, but like also like just to write songs that are like edifying for the church. You know what I mean? Like,
I think for a long time I thought of myself as a Christian or a spiritual
Yeah.
worship writer, and I forgot or didn't ever really learn, and I think at some fault to the system, didn't realize that I was actually just a writer,
right.
and that the art of writing a great song is not dependent on its content. And the art of writing a good song is speaking a truth well enough
Yes.
that it moves people
Yeah.
to connect with you
Yeah.
or that song, right?
Yeah.
I mean, John Mayer says, at the end of a show, the worst thing he can hear is, "Hey, we should jam sometime." How he knows his show was great is somebody comes up and says, "Can I give you a hug?
Right.
My
good.
grandpa just died."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't even know you." And so
Yeah.
what is that magic? And I
Yeah.
think that's true in systems like the corporate church that people write a lot in.
Yeah.
I think it's true in the country music industry. I think it's true in the hip hop industry. I think it's true in all of these different avenues of which songwriting exists. And so for me, particularly, I think that parts of the message of that faith experience was that you must give this talent that you have up to
Right.
somebody else, and you're actually not really supposed to use it for yourself, which is just bad messaging and clearly just something that that I believed was true that wasn't. And
Well, especially not to interrupt
yeah,
your line
please.
of thought, but I think it takes something that can be the byproduct of truth and makes it like the goal, right? Like, I think that having it resonate with someone else happens when you're good at. Pete Holmes describes creating art as like highly sensitive people reporting back to the rest of the world what it's like to be them.
such a good
It's such a good line, but I think that like it's so easy, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of this in all different types of industries, but it's so easy to try to appeal to the masses, in which you end up appealing to no one. And one of the things I love about your songwriting is how specific you are with it, because when you get really specific, I've heard someone say like the things that are the most personal and specific are the most universal. I don't know, like I think there's something to be said for like when you sit down and set out to write a song that you're like, God, I hope everyone likes to listen to this. I feel like that's like a recipe for a terrible
disaster.
song.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm feeling something deep. Can I get really true and honest about how to access that feeling through art? I don't know. What does that make you? Where do you go with that?
Yeah, I think that there is a couple different ways that you can approach writing a song, and for the most part, if you're there's plenty of really amazing and talented people that write songs for the sake of them being popular, and take a great amount of fulfillment in that and are very good at it.
And there's great skill in being able to do that.
And there's great skill in being able to do that. And it takes a lifetime to hone it, right? I think for me, in line of, I sometimes think I got started writing honestly a little late. And I think there's a lot of things that I can look back on to try to blame that on. But it wasn't until my mid-20s that I had somebody sit me down and say, you can just write a song about whatever you want, right? And this was such...
You're like, no fucking way.
And I was like, wait, what do you mean? I don't have to write it about...
What do you mean?
God? I think that there's an element of growing up in more of a conservative type Christian environment where a lot of your media intake is funneled a little bit. You know, you're not necessarily seeing the world for all that it is. You're seeing a bit of a version of it through the lens of an ideology. And I feel as though at some point in my 20s, I started realizing like, oh, I can write something about anything. Yeah. And so, now as I move forward and write, I do approach it from that perspective a little bit more. The specifics, I think, in my writing was always, I think that I can just blame that on influence. And so, you know, I'm not sure I have very many deep thoughts on that beyond some of my favorite writers wrote about really specific things. A fellow named Noah Gunderson and David Ramirez, they just write about a day they had. I think at a young age, I was always sort of obsessed with finding detail and beauty and joy in small things.
For sure.
And so I think that I was quite influenced to write more specifically. And I honestly just find that kind of writing a little more interesting to write and to listen to, etc.
Well, sometimes you'll write something, and I'll be honest, I remember back in the day, I feel like it was my job as someone who wrote with you regularly to like get you not to do that. Like, I just remember being like, don't do that thing. Because I was probably still in this like zone where I was like, no, you got to do something that's going to appeal to more people. And now I'm realizing like, oh no, that's actually the magic when you talk about that day that you went and bought a pack of smokes at a gas station and you like name things. Like, it's like, that's actually where people, I don't know, it causes people to relate in a very specific way.
I punched the clock, jumped in the truck, drove to the corner store. The teller asked, what will you have? I said, a pack of cigarettes. He could see it in my eyes, I wasn't doing well, so I asked to make it two. He said, I thought you quit. I said, yeah, I did, but go on and ring it through. I'll try again tomorrow. I've been giving it all, my blood, sweat and tears, but I'm goddamn tired of this goddamn year. I think my luck will change, oh, but even if it don't, I'll keep trying again tomorrow.
Yeah, I had somebody not that long ago come to one of my shows and was just like, it's just nice to have a singer just say something that I kind of understand. And I was like, I'm not sure actually how to take that. Like, he was just like, you're kind of simple, man. And I was like, yeah, shit. Like, you're right. Like, I do just sort of write like, hey, I'm sitting in this room. I'm feeling this kind of way. And this is the way that I see the ice melting in the glass. And that makes me think of the fact that time goes very slow. And just extrapolating on that feels more interesting to me because I've always been able to, and with you, in our kind of core group of friends, sit in any space and talk. Maybe that's some influence of growing up in Christian culture as well. Where, so much time is spent sitting in a room and talking.
So much talking.
And or sitting in a room listening to somebody talk.
Right.
And in sort of idealizing that thing that their ability to communicate and talk.
What we're doing right now.
So what we're doing right now.
What we're doing right now.
We're trying to do the best with the skills that we have.
Right. Yeah. It's not our fault. This is what we were taught to do.
Gotcha. Toothless grinning. That's actually really good.
Riley sat next to me on the bench on Wednesday. Nicotine pouch and a fifth of JD whiskey. I know he passed the puck whether we're losing or we're winning. He can take a punch or two and you'll still catch him toothless grinning.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah. It's just a regular Wednesday night. Riley, the quad pad.
I was thinking that like you could use the first half of a verse that you have here, but then like have the second half expand on a metaphor or something like that. Like, I'm just curious, like, how has it been navigating displaying public work that often is inspired or draws from very personal. Like, have you ever had someone be like, that one's about me?
Are you good?
Yeah, or that. Yeah, like,
Are we good?
are we good?
Yeah.
That sounds vaguely familiar to the conversation we had on the phone last week.
I had somebody say this to my wife, Claudia. We were at a bar not long ago, and somebody turned to her, and I had released a song. It was not the other day. It was like last year. I had released a song, and somebody had said to her, how do you feel, like across the table, like, how do you feel about that song clearly being about you? And in her voice, you know, in the moment she was like, oh, I don't care. Like, it's great, whatever. And then later she was like, you know what? It's such an interesting question because I don't often think about that.
Yeah.
Because so much of my writing, when it does involve, especially my wife or other people, generally they're involved in that experience every day. So Claudia's perspective on that is like, day to day, I hear you trying this song, singing it 800 different ways. I come out of the kitchen, I try it on her. She's like, that's shit. I'm like, I go back, I try it again, I come back. And so we sort of disassociate a little bit from the fact that it is about this core thing. Like, I'm singing about this massive, terrible blow up fight that we definitely had. It was horrible.
Right.
And
But we're talking about Craving You.
Well, Craving You.
Yeah, right.
For sure. And
Is it too late? Should I go home or stay? Doesn't matter anyway. I'm just craving you.
we have a bit of a good creative relationship that we're actually both able to kind of get into it and be like, I think it could be better this way.
It helps that she's an artist.
You know, I think that there is an understanding from my closest people that this is how I operate. This is who I am.
It's like, if you want to roll with us,
100%. You're gonna have to air your dirty laundry in an Eric Brandon song.
you got to watch what you say to him, because it might end up on the next record.
100%. I met a guy at the hockey rink named Riley the other night. We just wrote an entire song about him. So no one's fucking safe. You know?
Yeah, right. No, like, when was the moment you were like talking to Riley and you were like, I want to write a song about this guy?
We're standing in the change room at the end of the game.
Right.
And he went in early because we were playing with a bunch of young guys. And I went back to the change room, and he just doesn't stop talking.
Right.
He just talks and talks and talks. And he was just telling me all about the fact that I thought it was such a romantic thing that he works at the arena. Like, such an odd thing to bump into somebody who's there to play shinny, and he's like, I also work here.
Yeah.
And so, like, the guys here don't really love that I play as much as I play, but I don't really care. Screw the management. You know, like, and just kind of on and on and on. And then he was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, I used to flood the ice here. And that was when I was like, I gotta write a song about how I used to flood the ice here, because it's just too much. There's too many good details in how you how you flood the ice. Like, a good song for me is in its details.
Oh, right.
It's sort of like I've learned something about how something works, and somehow it's beautiful. So I think that's the moment, and that's where I kind of just went with the chorus, where I was sort of like, he's just a regular kind of guy. Like,
Right.
And I think in this stage of my life, I'm trying to simplify.
Yeah.
And to meet somebody who has been able to simplify their life and remain so just purely happy. I think we all get caught up in attempting to look for into the details of how we could be happier. And just to find somebody who seems so purely content, lived 6 minutes down the road, flooded the ice. And
We've talked about this, like, arc in your songwriting, which isn't really like a shift in your motivations for songwriting, but definitely a shift in where those songs got expressed, kind of who chose to listen to them, maybe like rules and boundaries that you felt like you had, that maybe those rules and boundaries have changed for you personally. And I'm so intrigued about that in terms of, like, we are all growing and transforming as humans all the time. And I'm always endlessly fascinated by the way that translates into how our art changes and grows with us as artists and creatives. And in this case, particularly as a songwriter, like, what would teenage Eric think of the songs that you're writing now?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good
teenage
question.
Eric gets his first guitar, all of a sudden unlocks this, like, world of, oh wow, I can actually process my world through my songwriting. Here's what, we talked about your influences. Like, what would you think of the songs you're writing now?
I think he'd be quite astounded at the risk I was taking, and I think he would feel probably pretty uncomfortable. And I think that the nice thing about growth is that, this is just like anything. Like, you stick your foot in the water and it feels scary when you don't know how to swim. you put your leg in, you get up to your waist, you learn how to float, you learn how to swim. And so I think that there's so many elements of who I am as a person, how I communicate, how I carry myself in the world, and especially how I communicate through writing songs, that this version of myself would say, hey, that sounds, first of all, really cool. And he would be stoked, but I think he would say, like, you're breaking a lot of rules. And he would say, be careful, don't break those rules. And I've done so much work in my life to move the goalposts and be okay with it, to take risks, because this is how we grow, this is how we evolve, this is how we become. At the end of my life, I think I'll be happy to have taken the risk and to have allowed myself to enter areas of which I was afraid to enter. And what that does for you as a writer, as an artist, as a person, as a friend, as a husband, as a father, all of that is much more beneficial for your growth and for who you can be for other people than it is to remain living in fear of those things.
This will change me into a thing I never thought that I could ever be. But I will learn to like it, and that won't be easy. And it's scaring the shit out of me.